Welcome to another episode of Football Talk with John and Evan. Hello, football fans. The Philadelphia Eagles have the best record in football. They've had the best record in football, but they continue to have the best record in football at 8-1. It is 9:59 p.m. on November 8th, 2017. I'm your host, John Justin Jankowski, with Evan knows his football monitor. Evan, 8-1. I know you're a big homer, and I know you say 14-2, 15-1 every season. But I don't think anyone saw 8-1 coming.
I do not say that every year. Yeah, this is the Jankowski spin. John likes to spin this stuff on me. But guys, I was not expecting 8-1 whatsoever. In fact, I keep thinking they're going to lose every week, like the last 3 or 4 weeks, because I just have a hard time believing they're going to keep this win streak going. I am on record as saying before the season I thought this team was going to win 11 games when everyone else was kind of tiptoeing around 8-9 wins, including the host of this show, John Jankowski, mind you.
I said 8-8.
But they've already hit the 8-win mark, so they're not out of it yet. But I think John would be pretty upset if he was correct at this point. Yeah.
Oh, yeah, I would cry. If they finish 8-8, I'll cry.
But if you know what, they dominated the Denver Broncos, a team that's down on their luck. They have quarterback issues, but they certainly have a lot of pieces in place. The vast majority of the number one ranked defense in the NFL comes back from 2 years ago when they won the Super Bowl. Obviously, the quarterback situation is different, but a lot of the skill players are still around. They're down on their luck, but the Eagles took it to them. They took them behind the shed, 51 points. I mean, it was silly how that game was going. I mean, they dominated every aspect of the game, top to bottom. I thought Carson Wentz delivered another MVP quality performance. Jay Ajayi was great, for the time we saw him. Alshon Jeffrey probably played the best game of his short Philadelphia Eagles career up to this point. And, they're clicking on all cylinders. In a lot of ways, John, I know a lot of people are saying the bye week can't come at a better time because to get Jay Ajayi, situated and to get a couple of these Eagles 100% healthy again, including Lane Johnson, probably the linchpin to the offensive line at this point. But in some ways, John, maybe it's because I'm so cautious, but I also think this couldn't come at a worse time. The Eagles are red hot right now, and the worst thing you can do to something that's red hot is just sit it down, take it out of the race for a little while and kind of let it start up again. So we won't know what's going to happen in 2 weeks against the Dallas Cowboys on Sunday night, but as it stands right now, this is absolutely the best team in football, and I'm really excited moving forward.
Well, I mean, eventually you have to have a bye week. So, the Eagles eventually going to have a bye week. I just think it's kind of interesting. 2 years ago, this Denver Broncos team won a Super Bowl. Obviously, the quarterback situation was different. Peyton Manning was sort of the quarterback. He played like 3/4 of the season. And everyone's saying, okay, Peyton Manning wasn't a world beater that year they won the Super Bowl. He didn't really perform that well in the playoffs. And it's just like the D-line got him there. The D-line got him there. And it's kind of interesting. The team is very similar to the Super Bowl team, and they're nowhere near a playoff team. And it's just kind of crazy, like just how close and yet so far you can be from a Super Bowl team, and just how tough it is just continuing success. Denver Broncos, they just find the quarterback doesn't turn, maybe throws one PC, but not a good quarterback. This is a quarterback that couldn't make the Cleveland Browns, remember? And then before that, it's just Trevor Siemian. He looked awful the week before in Kansas City. It's just kind of wild just how valuable the quarterback position is. You're going to have free agents like Kirk Cousins next year that the Denver Broncos think they can win, that they're going to throw money at Kirk Cousins. And I just think it's so fascinating. This is a team 2 years ago, everyone's saying the Broncos will continue to be great because that defense is so good. The offense was just all right. It was the defense that carried them through. And yet, the defense is still very good. Their stats show they're still one of the top defenses. But, if you don't have a quarterback, you're in trouble, and it just makes me very thankful as an Eagles fan we have Carson Wentz.
Oh, absolutely, John. But honestly, this isn't the first time as NFL fans we've seen this. Remember the Baltimore Ravens in 2000 had Trent Dilfer and arguably the second best or best defense of all time. And the following year, most of those pieces come back. They move on from Trent Dilfer and they sign Elvis Grbac, and they fail to qualify for the playoffs, or they were a quick out in the playoffs. I actually don't remember for sure, but so it comes down to the quarterback. And Peyton Manning was not the Peyton Manning of old 2 years ago when they won the Super Bowl, but John, he still could run a 2-4 minute offense, still was a very solid game manager, and did not lose them the game either. And there's something to be said for a quarterback who might not, he doesn't lose them, doesn't turn the ball over, doesn't make bad mistakes, particularly in the red zone. Something that Brock Osweiler did do last week, and something that Trevor Siemian had done for the last year and a half. So, John totally hit the nail on the head. This is a quarterback-driven league. It is without a doubt the single most important position in all of sports. And the Eagles have a great one right now. Obviously, there's a little competition going on as to who the best quarterback of the 2016 class is right now. Jared Goff is absolutely lighting the world on fire out there on the West Coast playing for the Los Angeles Rams. They actually put up 51 points as well against the Giants at the Giants last week. So the Rams do scare me. Jared Goff scares me. But, John, 2 years ago, they were talking about Wentz and Goff's talking about how much of a down year that year was in terms of quarterbacks. And they might end up having 2 franchise elite quarterbacks come out of that class, going 1 or 2. And the year before, Mariota and Winston can't stay healthy, let alone win games. So, it's funny. Experts ultimately, they're just glorified fans. They really don't know much. Neither do we. They can say Mariota and Winston are the best quarterbacks to come out in a while, best class to come out in a while. And then, Goff and Wentz are afterthoughts.
Hey, Goff and Wentz maybe having better numbers than Jameis Winston, but Jameis Winston gives you those pregame speeches. Are you going to eat that W, Evan? Are you going to eat that W?
Well, I love Jameis Winston. I loved him in college, and I still do. I'm not out of the Jameis Winston race. Never really was a Marcus Mariota guy.
I love those pregame speeches.
Oh, they're awesome. But what I will tell you is, everyone 2 years ago was talking about, well, first of all, the Titans, I believe, traded out of the first overall pick because they didn't want anything to do with Jared Goff. The Rams were able to move up and get him. And the Browns wanted nothing to do with Wentz, and the Eagles were eventually able to move up through a series of moves and get him.
According to Browns scouts, Wentz wasn't a top 20 quarterback.
What?
According to Cleveland Browns scouts, Carson Wentz was not a top 20 quarterback. That's why they did not draft him.
John, I think with the Cleveland Browns, you take their opinion, then you do the opposite. And I'm pretty sure, actually, if you did the opposite of what the Cleveland Browns front office thinks is best every single time, I'm actually pretty confident anymore you end up with a pretty competitive football team. So, Carson Wentz is a terrific young quarterback. He's younger than me, so I guess I can call him young these days. He does everything pretty well. I'd still like to see a little bit more accuracy on the deep ball, but nothing seems to faze him. He seems to be mature and, beyond his years. He seems to, be mobile, be smart. Sometimes I do think he holds on to the ball a little too long. And the Aaron Rodgers injury really does scare me with Carson Wentz, because Carson does have a little bit of that trying to extend the play, trying to make something happen. And as a result, takes a number of hits. And you're playing with fire with that, and there's only a matter of time before he snaps the collarbone or something like that. But you know what? I don't want to get too upset. For right now, we can't possibly be any better. We were one Hail Mary away from being 9-0 right now. They're 8-1, sitting pretty, playing well. And I actually would be interested to see what the Eagles would do if they play the Kansas City Chiefs right now. I think they're totally opposite team than when they were the last time they played.
I mentioned the Jameis Winston speech earlier. If you guys have a chance, this is for all Philadelphia Eagle fans that were Deshaun Jackson fans. Watch Deshaun Jackson in the back of the huddle when Jameis Winston is giving this pregame speech. W, because it is so funny. Deshaun Jackson has no idea what he's saying, and Deshaun Jackson looks clueless, and it's hilarious. But other notes from the Denver Broncos game. I just want to talk about how pretty was that play action to Jay Ajayi from Carson Wentz to Alshon Jeffrey. Everyone thought that Ajayi was going to run the ball there. Carson Wentz snapped it away at the last second from the play action and found Alshon Jeffrey one-on-one, and Aqib Talib bit so hard on the play action. He fell for it so bad, and it was so great because Alshon wide just has to beat the safety. Easy touchdown. Oh, that was great. Watch that play again. Just watch Aqib Talib just freeze. He just freezes for 1 second. You can't give Alshon Jeffrey, a wide receiver #1, just 1 second because he'll beat you every time. But that fake from Carson and Ajayi makes that freeze happen. And I loved it. I loved it. I loved it.
Oh, John, well, that actually happens when you have balance. And that's something that as a Philadelphia sports fans, we have not seen here in a very long time, a very long time. I mean, we were talking pre-Andy Reid. I mean, the Eagles, they'll never literally be 50% run to pass, but they run the ball enough and they run effectively enough where you have to, take every play action every time Carson looks to hand the ball very seriously. And I think that's ultimately what carved up an elite Denver Broncos defense. Are we going to run? Are we going to pass? Corey Clement is stepping in and playing very well in his nice little role right now. Jay Ajayi looked very good last week. LeGarrette Blount's still going to be LeGarrette Blount. The offensive line run blocks very well, pass blocks very well right now, even without Jason Peters. I have said, John, on this show, I think last week, that I didn't think the Jason Peters injury was going to be that big of a deal. I was ready to move on from him last offseason. I think people want Jason Peters to be great. I think he played well for his age up to this point, but I've said this before. I thought Haloti Vaitai would be fine, and he's been fine. He's a competent tackle in this league. Now, is he somebody that is you're ultimately going to build an offensive line around? Probably not. But if Vaitai is your worst offensive lineman, that's a pretty good offensive line. So I'm very happy with what the Eagles are doing. But what I'm trying to say is, with this offensive line, with the weapons they have as the receivers and the running game, I mean, tight ends, they're deep. Zach Ertz, John, remember you said Zach Ertz, play him. It's a lock. He's going to be great. Doesn't even dress last week. Obviously, John couldn't have known that. And Trey Burton and Brent Selleck play very well. So they're deep at that position. They're deep at the wide receiver position. They're deep at the running back position. They're deep on the offensive line. Lane Johnson, I think the week before, goes out for a little while, and Isaac Seumalo played pretty well too. So at that right tackle position. So they're deep everywhere on the offense. They're balanced everywhere on the offense. They can.
Lane Johnson, shout out. Von Miller was saying Lane Johnson is one of the best in the game. When you have Von Miller, the best defensive end, saying that is high praise. And Lane Johnson on one play made Von Miller look so bad. Von Miller tries to spin move him. Lane Johnson with one hand just hits him on the shoulder pad. Von Miller just goes to the ground. Man.
But that was awesome. But what I'm trying to say, John, the Eagles right now aren't so much about talent as it is about the management of personnel and keeping things balanced. And that, and combined with the talent, has just propelled the Eagles offense into this might be the best Eagles offense we've ever seen. And that's without Donovan, without Andy, without T.O., without Mike Vick, without Deshaun, without LaShawn, without, Westbrook, without all these great names that we've had and have associated with Eagles football really going back to 1999. This is a totally different cast of characters, and not one of these guys was all of that wanted. I mean, Alshon Jeffrey, the Bears let him go, and nobody really wanted to sign him to a long-term deal. That's why he took a one-year deal here. Torrey Smith, is another cast-off. Nelson Aguilar, everybody was ready to, let go. Steven Wisniewski was signed to be a backup offensive lineman. Jason Kelce was almost ran out of town. I mean, it goes on and on and on. Carson Wentz, John just got done talking about how teams didn't want Carson Wentz. Jay Ajayi was somebody the Dolphins were ready to move on from. The Patriots felt they didn't need LeGarrette Blount anymore. Corey Clement was an undrafted free agent. This group of characters, John, is the best offense in football. Maybe not statistically, but with their balance and talent, they're the best offense in football. It is a bunch of cast-off rejects and no-names dominating the NFL, dominating the top defense in football. And it is so exciting. I think it perfectly fits the character of Philadelphia in general, and the Eagles specifically. And, without big names, it's dominating. It is impressive. It is exciting. And with 7 games to go, the sky's the limit.
What's wild is any player this offense puts out in the red zone is a threat to score. Corey Clement scores touchdowns. Trey Burton scores touchdowns. Zach Ertz scores touchdowns. Nelson Aguilar scores touchdowns. Alshon Jeffrey scores touchdowns. It's like, you're a defense. Are they running it? Are they throwing to the running back? They throw it to one of the big receivers? Carson going to take it himself? Ertz or Burton or Nelson Aguilar going to quick from the slant, from the slot? I mean, there's just so many ways they can hurt you, right? They can hurt teams right now. And that's got to drive defenses crazy because who do we double? Who do we leave one-on-one? Because there's not many guys you can leave one-on-one, but you have to leave someone one-on-one because you can't double everyone.
Leave Torrey Smith one-on-one. He won't do much.
Yeah, but he's not going to be in the red zone, Torrey Smith.
Yeah, I know. But, John, that's ultimately what I'm talking about. I'm talking about balance, and I'm talking about management of personnel. I mean, this team does such a good job getting everyone involved, keeping everyone involved, really getting in positions where they're winning first down, getting into second manageable, third and short, and taking advantage of it. And it all kind of ultimately starts and stops with Carson Wentz pre-snap reads, decision-making, and accuracy, particularly in the red zone. It has been phenomenal, and it is the reason why the Eagles are 8-1. That and an elite defense. But you know what? One hand washes the other. There's no way they'd be 8-1 if they just had this offense and an average defense, and vice versa. This team is extremely balanced. Everyone talks about Carson Wentz and the talent they have offensively. But, John, they're just as talented defensively. Jordan Hicks, he goes down. Nobody really knows what's going to happen. Ronald Darby goes down. Nobody really knows what's going to happen. It has been Fletcher Cox goes down for a few weeks. Nobody really knows what's going to happen. And, they continue to stay balanced defensively in terms of when they blitz, when they don't, when they wide nine, when they don't, the coverages they use. They do still do a little too much off coverage in my mind, off coverage zone. And obviously I'm aware that Jim Schwartz, rather, he's coming up with the best schemes for the talent that he has around the perimeter defensively in terms of Jalen Mills, Rasul Douglas, and Patrick Robinson. But, I would like to see them get into a little bit more press man-to-man. I know that was the point when they went out and signed Ronald Darby and drafted Sidney Jones. Until we see those two in action, we won't really get to see that, honestly. I think Jalen Mills, Rasul Douglas, and Patrick Robinson ultimately are zone coverage guys, off coverage guys. But they're very effective. And I think the elite front seven that this team has, even without Jordan Hicks, and the back end of Malcolm Jenkins, Rodney McLeod, and Corey Graham when he comes in. They're so balanced, so talented, that it really makes up for the average corner play. And, John, I'd also like to say that, I think Rasul Douglas is such a clone of Asante Samuel. Maybe not in, measurables or the way they look or, athleticism, but the way they play, the off coverage, reading quarterback's eyes, jumping routes, really having that be their game. That's so Asante Samuel to me. I was very up and down on Asante, but he was ultimately a Pro Bowler, ultimately somebody who was able to win Super Bowls and be involved in that up in New England. So Rasul Douglas I really like, and I'm really interested to see what happens when Ronald Darby comes back, when Sidney Jones comes back. Oh, honestly, John, part of me kind of wants to shut down Ronald Darby for the season right now. I mean, how much better could you possibly get? What do you do? Do you take Jalen Mills, our defensive player of the week last week, out of the lineup? Are you going to take Rasul Douglas, who might be the best rookie right now on the team, out of the lineup? You're going to take Patrick Robinson out of the lineup, who's like the number 2 corner in football right now statistically by Pro Football Reference. I mean, I just don't see what Ronald Darby brings to the table right now. And you're talking about somebody who's singing his praises in the preseason. So I just think, it'll be interesting to see when these two come back, because I think that will ultimately come with a scheme change. And you see much more press man-to-man, which is what this team wanted to do initially in the first place. But they're so balanced, so talented. Even the special teams is elite. So everything excites me right now about this team except for Jake Elliott and extra points. It does kind of scare me a little. He's been missing a couple of them. But then he kills field goals. So I don't know what's going to happen, but this team is very good right now. They can compete with anyone, and not just the NFC, but the NFL.
Let me go through some projected, if the Eagles keep playing at this pace, what they'll finish with. Carson Wentz, 4,200 yards, 42 touchdowns, 10 picks. Woo! That's incredible if he keeps up this pace.
That is legitimate MVP consideration numbers. I still think it'll ultimately go to Tom Brady, but Carson Wentz, those are MVP type numbers. And if they win 15 games, Carson Wentz is probably the league's MVP.
The team as a rush, team stats rushing wise, Eagles are on pace for 2,200 yards. So I'll take that any day.
They're the fourth best team, the fourth best rushing team in the NFL. At least going into last week, they were. I don't have the numbers, of the updated numbers, but they are very good, very balanced, John. Balance, and not just run to pass, but the pass plays and the run plays that they call. They can run, dive, ISO plays right up the gut. They can run stretch plays now with the Jai. They can run screens with Corey Clement, and they all can kind of do a little bit of both. So they don't tip their hand too much depending on what running back is in. It is very exciting, John, to see what this team will do moving forward, especially with Jay Ajayi. And, John, I know I've been talking a lot, but I do want to finish my little segment up with this. Somebody went out, and I forget who it was, but I think I was on 94.1 WISP, the local sports radio talk around here that I'm constantly listening to. They said that there's a good chance that the Jay Ajayi trade to the Eagles is the equivalent of Marshawn Lynch going to Seattle. And I don't know if that's true or what's going to happen, but that is one heck of a comparison being drawn right now. And if that's the case, this will be very exciting for a long time in Philadelphia.
Right now, Alshon Jeffrey, Zach Ertz, and Nelson Aguilar all on pace to get 10 touchdown catches this year. Zach Ertz is actually on pace to get 1,000+ yards, 80 receptions. Fletcher Cox and Brandon Graham are both on pace for 9 sacks this year. These are the numbers you want to see from – these are like top numbers you want to see from each player, and they're putting them out there.
John, balance. Balance. That's the key to this team. It's not Randy Moss up in New England catching 23 touchdown passes. You said 3 separate people are on pace for 10 touchdown receptions. 2 separate rushers are on pace for 9+ sacks. It has been balance across the board, and it's so difficult for any defensive coordinator, defensive schemer, defensive team talent to really stop the Eagles, because any one person any given time can bite you right now. Even Matt Collins, they can go deep at that receiving group and make plays. So it is very exciting right now in Philadelphia. I mean, I keep saying the word excited, but what other word can you say? I mean, it is truly special right now. I wish some of these players were on a little bit longer deals. Nigel Bradham's on the last year of his deal. Timmy Jernigan's on the last year of his deal. Alshon Jeffrey's on a 1-year deal. LeGarrette Blount's on a 1-year deal. So who knows what's going to happen, how big this window really is. But if they can just keep some of those guys, Nelson Aguilar is another one who's finishing up his rookie deal. So Torrey Smith, I think there's a club option after this year. So who knows just how big this window really is for this Eagles team. But right now in 2017, they're as good as any team in football, and it has been so long since anyone has been able to say that in this city. And it is so exciting again. And the future is bright, not just here, but for the 76ers. But, for the Eagles, it is so exciting right now.
We're not going to go really deep in depth in this because Evan and I next week will do an Eagles Cowboys preview. Eagles got the Cowboys coming up, then they got the Bears, then they got the Seahawks, then they got the Rams, then they have the Giants, the Raiders, and the Cowboys. So not the easiest schedule down the stretch. There's some very tough games in there, but it's like this Eagles-Cowboys game is really going to tell a lot because the Cowboys need the win against the Eagles very badly. Like, the division might be over if the Eagles beat them. And so
I totally agree.
That Eagles-Cowboys Sunday night game, this is the big game of the year for Dallas. Like, Eagles have extra time to prepare. This is going to be very interesting. Like, I haven't been like, this is the biggest test since the Panthers game. Now, the Panthers have fallen off the horse a little bit, but, I mean, going to that Panthers game, that was going to be the test. Short week going against a very good team on the road on Thursday Night Football, but this is the biggest test since that game. But Sunday Night Football in Dallas, Eagles have extra rest. Dak Prescott's playing well. Zeke Elliott's playing well. The wide receivers aren't playing that well for Dallas. Dak and Zeke are playing well. We don't know if Zeke's going to play when the Eagles play the Cowboys. I mean, every week he's out for 6 games. He appealed. He's not out for 6 games. So I think he's going to play the rest of the season. But Sunday Night Football is going to be – that's going to be the season for Dallas.
Oh, it'll be the season for Dallas for sure, and it'll be a great test for the Eagles. Sean hit the nail on the head. I mean, I don't want to talk in circles around you. You did a great job explaining that. We'll have a show next week talking about Dallas in particular. Obviously, I hate the Cowboys. It'll be a Sunday night game. It'll be fantastic. It'll be fantastic to see what the Eagles really have coming off a bye when things aren't so hot, when they've been away from the game. John said it perfectly. It'll be a very tough game. But that being said, nothing worth having comes easy. I mean, if every game was its mortal lock, would anybody really watch? Would you be, as a fan, even watching this podcast, this show, if it was a mortal lock to win every game? So, it is exciting to see to see such a big game on a national stage like this against another young team that's going to be in the hunt as long as Zeke and Dak and Dez Bryant are in Dallas. They're going to be in the hunt as long as Carson Wentz, Jay Ajayi, and who knows who else will still be here for the Eagles. And it'll be a great game. It'll be a lot of fun. I think it'll be a close game. I think it'll be an old school NFC East game, or maybe the Eagles will just kick the Cowboys' butts. That would be fun too. But I anticipate it being a close game.
We're going to switch gears to some Sixers football. Don't worry, we'll have plenty of Eagles-Cowboys preview next week. We'll really go into the X's and O's, the matchups. We'll definitely get into that next week. But we'll talk real quick about some Philadelphia 76ers. They're on a winning streak. The Sixers just beat the Utah Jazz on the road without Joel Embiid. Joel Embiid resting. I mean, we all knew that Joel Embiid wasn't going to play every game. He's going to play 60 games this year probably. There's 12 back-to-back, second halves of back-to-backs this year. So Embiid's probably not going to play in those. I mean, the Sixers don't have a back-to-back for a while, so they probably just thought Utah's a long road streak, so let's give them a rest. But Ben Simmons didn't have his best game, but Ben Simmons constantly driving to the basket allowed Dario Saric to get open for three, allowed J.J. Redick to get open for three. In past games, Ben Simmons allowed Robert Covington to get open from three. T.J. McConnell's contribute from three. Such a weapon because he makes J.J. Redick better. He makes T.J. McConnell better. Makes Robert Covington better. Makes Dario Saric is still finding his role, but it seems like Dario can find a way open if Simmons is in the game. Amir Johnson, he's playing very well defensively at center when Embiid's not playing. Rashawn Holmes recently back from injury. He's better at offense than Amir Johnson. So the Sixers have very capable backup centers when Embiid's either resting because he's only going to play about 26 minutes a game, or Embiid is resting for the game. So Sixers fans should be very excited about Ben Simmons. I say it every week. I tweet it every day. I Facebook it every day. A 6'10" point guard with vision. He's averaging 18, 10, and 8 right now. 18, 10, and 8 in a rookie year. His rookie year, he's averaging 18, 10, and 8. That's ridiculous. You don't see numbers like that. And this team is getting better because Ben Simmons is making them better. And they are fun to watch right now. Like, usually when you would say Embiid's not playing, you'd be like, oh, lost. Now Embiid's not playing. It's like, Simmons is just going to have to do more work tonight.
Oh, the Sixers are a lot of fun. But last night, John, did you get a chance to watch that game, actually?
I watched a little bit.
It was like pulling teeth down the stretch. It was such a tough game to finish. Both teams were sloppy. Both teams were missing players, and it showed. But the Sixers have flat out talented the Utah Jazz last night. Robert Covington fouls out. I thought Dario was actually amazing. Put up like 23, 25 points, had his best game of the season. Ben Simmons wasn't shooting the ball particularly well, but his impact goes so far beyond the stats, goes so far beyond points in general. What a stat filler he is. What a floor general he is. T.J. McConnell was able to come up with some plays. Rashawn Holmes kind of gets in foul trouble early. He's kind of, hit or miss. He even saw some minutes out of Jahlil Okafor. Amir Johnson, it's actually the first game of the year I hated him, and he's quickly becoming one of my favorite Sixers. What a gritty performer Amir Johnson is. Such a great player. They have him on an 11-year, I think, one-year deal, $11 million one-year deal, rather. And he's playing very well, too. I mean, this is a team that's long, athletic. They buy into positionless basketball. They get aggressive. They push transition. J.J. Redick, Robert Covington generally are shooting the ball very well. There's options now. I wouldn't say there's nearly as much balance as the Eagles, but they're good all over. Ben Simmons is I think leading the league, or he's up there in terms of guards and defensive rebounds. They're very skilled. Dario Saric, Ben Simmons, and Joel Embiid to a degree as well. I mean, they have eyes in the back of their head, all of them. They can find shooters open everywhere. They have the skill and the touch to get the ball where they need to get it. I still don't like how much this team fouls, how many free throw attempts they'll give up to other teams, and I don't like how few free throws they'll get themselves. They're still a young team. A mark of a young team is not really knowing how to get to the free throw line. But turnovers are also a little bit of a concern. But when they're as passionate and committed defensively as they are, as long as they're as athletic and long as they are defensively, and as long as they're as aggressive as they are pushing in transition, I think this team's going to have a chance to be very successful in the regular season. I've said that on this podcast really from the beginning. Now, John, I know historically speaking, NBA basketball transition teams typically do very well in the regular season and struggle in the postseason. But Miami Heat with LeBron James, that big three kind of broke that trend a little. They obviously went to 4 straight finals, won 2 titles. But, for the most part, 5-on-5 basketball still wins in the playoffs. The Warriors are athletic enough to push, but ultimately they're a 5-on-5 team too. They can absolutely generate shots and points and set offenses. The Sixers still aren't really there yet for the most part, but as long as they're as skilled as they are, as long as they're good off the dribble, drawing help and finding open shooters, I mean, they're as good as anybody. And I think my favorite Sixer right now might be T.J. McConnell, and not because he's a fan favorite or anything like that. I really like the energy and the passion he's brought to this team. He is a crazy nut job out there, and I love it. He wants to win as much as anybody else. I mean, he's up there full court pressing, getting extra buckets, extra opportunities, extra possessions, just being a pest defensively. And, he knows his role. He's not overplaying himself by any means, but he's shooting the ball better. He's a very, very good backup point guard. I love it. I love what the Sixers are doing right now. And I think they're 6-4 for a reason. And it's not because they're the most polished team. It's not because they're, experienced winners or by anything like that. They're flat out just younger, more talented, more rangy than other teams. And it's been showing. I think that they beat the Kings tomorrow. Joel Embiid should be back for that. I don't think they'll beat the Warriors on Saturday, but I am interested to see how close that game will be. So, it'll be very exciting to see what happens for the Philadelphia 76ers.
So, we're going to transition into Phillies baseball. We'll start off with the positive Phillies news first. Gabe Kapler, Phillies new manager, very different approach to baseball. And I know Evan always says he's not really as big into baseball as I am, but I was so fascinated by the introductory press conference that Gabe gave, and I actually told Evan to listen to it because sports and analytics and just how sports has evolved in the past 10 years, it was fascinating to listen to. And I'll give my quick recap of what I took from Gabe's. He was director of player personnel at the LA Dodgers. LA Dodgers recently, they were just in the World Series this past World Series. One of the things they always talk about is Gabe really focused on nutrition. He got rid of all the junk food and all the bad meals within the Dodgers organization, just not the pros, but also the minor league system. One thing that really stood out to me when you just listen to Gabe is he's not looking at home runs. He's looking ball comes off the bat for a hitter. The velocity the ball's coming off the bat for a hitter. You can change his stance. Maybe he's swinging up at the ball, how he can work that. Gabe was in baseball. I mean, he's played the game. He knows what these pros are dealing with. He's also looking at the release points where pitchers are releasing the ball for sliders. Can they get more miles per hour on a slider, on a fastball? Maybe slow down the changeup so there's a bigger difference between the fastball and the changeup. I'm saying to hear a list that instead of just straight up numbers. And Terry Francona was a mentor of his. I know a lot of people don't have fond memories of Terry Francona with the Phillies but he had success with the Cleveland Indians right now, and he's won World Series with the Boston Red Sox. And one thing Gabe mentioned is he likes to put in charge of the locker room, and then those veterans report to Gabe, hey, these younger players are acting up. We got to control a little bit, or young guys are fine. They don't need any extra coaching right now. Press conference also mentioned he's going to figure out how to communicate with each player. Maybe a player is an in-person communicator. Maybe he's a tweeter. Maybe he's a texter. So he was also asked what kind of hitting coach is he going to surround himself, pitching coach, fielding coach, like first base, third base coach he's going to surround himself with. He says He wants a diverse group of coaches. He wants coaches that don't think like him. He doesn't want a bunch of yes men. Everyone's point of view to help make this Phillies team great. And I just thought this was such an outside-the-box press conference. Evan, I know you're not the biggest baseball guy. Coaches lacrosse, from who follows basketball and football very in-depthly. What did you take from this?
I took that the Phillies are going into taking a step into the right direction. They're becoming a next level organization in terms of what they value and what they don't. I love analytics. Obviously it's a little nerdy. I know a lot of older viewers won't be as into it, but it's just the way sports are going. Really being anal about all these little statistics and what they all mean and how they all come together. I thought Gabe did a nice job talking about personal accountability, talking about what the way he's going to implement the diet of these teams or of his players and all that comes with it, and really by changing the culture and the identity of the Philadelphia Phillies. Obviously, I'm not going to sit here and pretend to really understand what's going on. I want to make this very clear because John likes to spin it like I don't like baseball. It's more that I don't really understand it. I didn't play baseball that long growing up. I got into lacrosse pretty quickly. I stopped playing baseball in 4th, 5th grade, and it's just not a sport that I'm super comfortable with. But after watching the press conference, after listening to him do an interview on Carlin and Reese, I think last Thursday or Friday, I was really excited to hear what he has to say. He seems like a young, personable guy that that really has his pulse on where baseball's going. Another thing, John, I almost feel like he also kind of, in a bad way, reminds me of, I don't know if you've ever seen the movie American Psycho, but he kind of reminds me of Patrick Bateman, like really obsessed with his own image and body and all those things. And it almost seems like he's either going to be an amazing manager for this team or he's going to be a total psychopath, total sociopath, and just, says all the right things, but ultimately, doesn't really relate to anybody. So I think it go one extreme or the other, but I like the direction this team's going in terms of, in terms of the analytics and really buying into next generation sports and diets and all those things. There's a reason why teams do these things. And I know people look at analytics and think Chip Kelly or Sam Hinkie, this or that, but you don't have to go to such extremes with the smoothies and all that Chip Kelly went to. And Gabe really seems like he's going to implement them. He's going to expect teams to do, or players to do it, but he's going to have them be accountable for themselves and transition on their own time and not really be, a micromanager of his personnel. So, I don't know where this is going to go, and I don't know enough about baseball to really give you a prediction about the Phillies, but I like what I heard coming from a novice who really doesn't understand what he's listening to. But this guy really seems like he's got a command of it, and I'm as bought in as I can be, considering I just don't really know baseball that well. John, you there, buddy? Uh-oh. Well, guys, it looks like John's computer has frozen.
The Phillies offseason will continue the rest of the year. We'll be following that. We'll give you any updates. Yeah, I can hear you. I can hear you, Evan.
I'm just making sure because your screen's freezing on me. So just making sure that everything's all right. Keep going.
I just want to say that if the Phillies make any big moves, Evan and I will mention them after Eagles recaps, after Eagle previews. I mean, we're not going to go in depth. We're going to talk about how we talk about the Sixers. We'll talk 5 minutes if they had another hitter, make a move somewhere, or make a trade. So we'll definitely keep you in the loop of Phillies transactions through the rest of the season because I'm very interested this year. It's a new coach, new manager, so team goes. But we got some really sad Phillies news. Sad news Evan and I have ever discussed on this podcast. Great Philadelphia pitcher, former Phillies pitcher, Roy Halladay. He passed away yesterday, and Roy Halladay was really into flying planes. That was a hobby of his. He always wanted to do it. Passionate golf in Mexico and passed away. This one just kind of shocked me when I heard the news yesterday because a player I really followed, a player I was a really big fan of. I mean, I had a poster of his in my room. I have his jersey that I still wear today. And this is the first time a player I followed has passed away. And when you just saw how much of an impact he had, not only on the baseball community, but players like Carlos Ruiz, Cole Hamels, Chase Utley. I mean, all the stories that came out from those guys. A great baseball player, but he was such a great family man. He was a philanthropist, always giving back to charity. I mean, he cared so much about his kids and his wife, and it just stinks that a man.
Yeah, you know, I don't want to spend too much time talking about this. It's very sad. I was driving home yesterday, listening to Carlin and Reese when they broke the story, and they went live to the press conference. And I know that there was some speculation before it became official that it might be Roy Halladay. Then it comes out that it was Roy Halladay. You know, a man gone way too soon. You know, I don't know much about baseball, but I know how dominant Roy Halladay was, and from everything that I have heard, how great of a guy he was off the mound. So, my heart, and I think I speak for John when I say our heart, really goes out to his family and the community down there in the Tampa Bay or in the Tampa area, and you know, everybody who ever watched the Phillies game who remembers Roy. You know, he didn't win a World Series here, but he was a part of some really good teams. You know, had a perfect game in the regular season, a no-hitter in the playoffs, and really just brought a sense of credibility and dominance to this rotation that the Philadelphia Phillies had. I remember watching him a little when he was with the Blue Jays. I remember hearing the rumors that he might come to the Phillies. And I remember when it happened, it was almost like, you know, the equivalency of when the Eagles got T.O. You know, the Phillies were getting Roy Halladay. You know, that's the type of player we were talking about. And he certainly delivered. And on the expectations of coming from Toronto to Philly had to have been tremendous for him, had to have been very difficult for him. But he met every single expectation, won a Cy Young Award while he was here. It's really a shame. You know, you know, you never really know what's going to happen in life. You know, you think you've got another 40, 50, 60 years, and you just never know what can happen. So I guess the moral of the story is just live life to the fullest and enjoy every single day, because you just never really know. Nobody can ever really know. And, you know, I you know, he's a great guy. From everything I know, I don't know him personally, and tremendous pitcher. And, you know, I really hope that, you know, his name will ring out in this city and in Major League Baseball and the Tampa community for a long time, because if anyone deserves it, it is Roy Halladay.
I mean, you just look at the numbers he posted when he won the Cy Young with the Phillies, the last Phillies pitcher to win a Cy Young. He threw 30 innings in a year, 21 wins, a 2.4 ERA. Incredible. He, like Evan said, he threw a no-hitter in the playoffs, and he threw a perfect game. And Carlos Ruiz, who was always the catcher for Roy Halladay with the Phillies, he said Roy gave more credit to Carlos Ruiz catching the game and calling the game more than Roy actually delivering the pitches. And Nelson Figueroa told the story everyone watches of the perfect game because they all contributed to the perfect game. Chase Utley shared a story how the first day of Phillies spring training, it was 5:45. He sees Roy Halladay, 5:45 in the morning, he sees Roy Halladay eating breakfast. He's drenched, he's soaking wet. And Chase goes, "Is it raining outside, Roy?" And Roy goes, "No, I just finished my workout." I mean, you hear Cole Hamels talking about how he just had an impact on Cole as a father when Roy would just walk around the ballpark with his kids. And Cole Hamels saw that, and Cole Hamels was like, "I want that one day." And Cole Hamels was saying every day Roy was teaching the younger guys. I mean, Cole says he wouldn't be the pitcher he is today without Roy Halladay's tips and pointers. And in fact, he just left on so many players. It's incredible. It stinks. And it's such a shame he went away at the age of 40. I mean, he's a first ballot Hall of Famer. He's probably going to be the first Phillies Hall of Famer the Phillies are going to have in some time. And it just rest in peace, Doc Halladay.
Yeah, you know, you hit the nail on the head, John. Hit the nail on the head, John. Great guy, horrible loss. You there, John?
It's Eagles. I'm just wrapping up the podcast. I'm just wrapping it up. I'm just saying next week we're going to have Eagles-Cowboys preview next week. It's the big game of the year for both teams. If the Eagles win, they should have the division the rest of the way. So we'll definitely see you next week.
Oh yeah, I don't know if mathematically they would, but the amount of the lead that they'll have in Philadelphia will be in the NFC will be borderline insurmountable. It would take a monumental collapse combined with a ridiculous hot streak by most likely the Dallas Cowboys for the Eagles to get thrown at this point. But it is very exciting. Hopefully, the bye week goes by pretty quickly and we can get back to Eagles football next Sunday.
All right. I'll see you next week, Evan.
I'll see you, John.